Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar, Tips to Grow Your Fall Fundraising. This is Joanna Harvey. I'm the Director of Marketing here at DonorDrive. We're very excited to have Ally Brooks from Eventage here with us today to share some of these amazing tips. A few housekeeping items as we get started. Please use the chat box in the GoToWebinar tool to submit any questions that you want to ask of Ally throughout the presentation. She'll be doing a Q&A session at the end. Also, if you run into any technical issues, go ahead and submit those in the chat box as well. So to go ahead and get started today, I'm very excited to introduce to everyone Ally Brooks. She is the Manager of Peer-to-Peer Systems at Eventage. She previously worked for 5 years at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention on their signature national fundraising event. At Eventage, Ally focuses on a little bit of everything: recruitment, website, logistics magic, all for her nonprofit clients. She helped to grow Connecticut's largest ride, which is the Closer to Free ride, and she grew it from 250 riders to over 1,700 riders. She also works very closely with Velocity Ride and Sleep Out America on their event management. Ally is one of those rare can do anything around the event space. She can do everything from building peer-to-peer websites and even on the ground, putting up toilets, hanging signage, driving forklifts, and even parallel parking 24-foot trucks. So we're very excited to have Ally here with us today to talk about some of these last-minute tips for fall fundraising. Ally, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and for DonorDrive and Joanna for inviting me to present. Like Joanna said, we're going to be talking about best practices in creating a good game plan going into your last weeks, months of your fall campaigns to reach both your recruitment and fundraising goals. So let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about the 4 C's: comparing year-to-year data, having a solid communication strategy to meet your goals, creating motivational messaging to get your participants to fundraise, and finally, coordinating with technology. So let technology work for you. First thing we're going to talk about is compare. We're going to look at progress to current year goals, year-to-year data, and how to revisit weekly goals to revise your communications plan. Okay. So here you can see a spreadsheet. This is year-to-year overall comparisons to see how you trended with your recruitment. So a best practice is to keep a cumulative report each season. So when your new season comes around, you can see your historical data. This way you can see your percentage of increase to decrease in comparison to previous years. You can see in the columns that it tells a different story of your participants, of how they differ. Are they new participants? Are they alumni? And this will help guide your communications and marketing plans for either the year you're going into or for the next year. Okay. On that same note, you want to keep track of your weekly year-to-year comparisons as well. So you want to stay on track to meet your goals. That is exactly what this type of tracking sheet will do. Since you are already running your cumulative report, you should be also adding your weekly goals so you can see your actual numbers and track your progress. Because with that, then you'll know if you need to adjust your communications plan, maybe make some additional Facebook marketing ads, and so on and so forth to make sure that you're keeping up with the goals that you set for yourself. Best practice is to report weeks out from the event rather than specific dates, because that will give you a better year-to-year comparison, so more apples to apples of looking at your data. So you can tell by this spreadsheet, so we broke it out by mileage for these riders. It's a 12-week out. So 2018 season to date versus 2017 season to date. You can see the percentage of increase for growth for year over year, how far we are away from our goal, and how much we need to get to. So we have the 4 broken out different participant types, and then the total amount of participants at the bottom. So if you have a weekly meeting with your client, or if you have to talk to your boss, whatever it is, this gives you the tools and the resource that you need for a quick snapshot to share, but also gives you the opportunity to go through your data to make sure that you're keeping up with your goals. And once again, making the cumulative report, so when you get to your 2018 event, so looking at it now, compared to 2017, you have all of that 2017 data in there, and going into 2019, you'll have all of your 2018 data. So all you'll be looking at is the current year. Okay, so there are 3 types of e-coms that you should be keeping on your calendar as you get closer to your event. And you can do this very simply by making a communications calendar that you can reference throughout your campaign and adjust as you get closer to your event. So kind of best practice with a communications calendar in your off season, or even now. I know you guys are gearing towards your fundraising event that's happening soon. Adjusting that communications calendar, looking when you sent out your comms plan, making sure you're not inundating your participants with too much information. Because as it gets closer to the event, this is the most important time that you want them to actually read something. So the information that you're getting out, make sure it is applicable to what is happening, to what is about to happen. So you make sure that they read all of these wonderful e-coms that you took time to build without divulging too much information, having big calls to action so they know the when, where, how, and why. So 3 types of calendars that you definitely want to include in a communications calendar is final recruitment communications, fundraising and retention communications, and of course, the event communications. So final recruitment communications, these are segmented groups that you want to look at. So of course, you have your alumni re-engagement. So at this point, people should have already re-engaged with you, your alumni. You have a great alumni base. Your event has been happening year over year. But then there are those folks that maybe haven't re-engaged yet. You want to reach out to them, maybe give them a little bit of incentive, cushion their reason for wanting to come back to the event, you know, build on their experience that they've had before. This is your bread and butter. These are the people that are your best advocates that you want to come back and enjoy the experience with you. And then your next segmented group could be part of a referral program. So this is all of your participants that are already registered for your event. This is a great time to do a refer a friend campaign, to give them an incentive to get people to join their team. And this coincides directly with team captains as well. But the referral program can be also for your individual participants. This doesn't always have to be team-based. So giving people incentive to get their friends to join you, it could be simple as, you know, add a friend in the month of August or the next couple of weeks, and we'll give you either a fundraising boost or we'll give you, you know, a shout out under social media. It could be just an array of things that just make them feel special. And then your team captains, you definitely want to segment out these groups, and you can use DonorDrive technology to segment out your team captains to give them their own special messaging, some guided messaging of how they can grow their team. I know that within the DonorDrive dashboard, there are e-coms that participants you guys have already built in for them. So making sure that they know that they are there, that they can edit it specifically for them, that those e-coms that they send out themselves through their participant dashboard has their URL. When you do your segmenting messaging to them, you can insert, as they can see, a placeholder to put in their team name. So really guided messages, because as much as you guys want to communicate with their participants, we want them to feel equally empowered to send out messages to their friends, family, donors, etc. Best practice for any email communications plan that you guys probably are already doing or know about, but to always make phone calls in conjunction with your email comms. It's really important to send out those e-coms, do those follow-up phone calls, not in a way of badgering them to take action, but just to get that little bit of personalization. It goes a long way. So they don't think it's just coming from a person just sitting there and sending out all of these emails, that there's actually a person there to answer their questions, to help guide them through their fundraising, to help them grow their team. And then you can see in the picture how happy they are. I mean, these are people that we sent out e-coms to, and they had a great time at their event. I know you guys are laughing. Okay. Next slide. All right, so fundraising and recruitment. So these are the fun income-triggered notifications that you guys can send out through DonorDrive. I enjoy putting these together because it gives you a sense of really being able to segment out those groups, income-triggered notifications, like we talked about team captains, but then also getting to your zero balance folks. So having those stratification levels, sending dedicated emails to your zero balance fundraisers. Now, these are folks, obviously, as you get closer to your event, these are not the ones that you want to spend most of your time on, but you want to just give them that last minute push. Hey, we know you signed up for this event for a reason. Here's some impact messaging that you can use to send out to your donors, so they'll give you some fundraising. Now, a little bit of a pro tip here. I know that when people register, they do have the option of donating to themselves. So even post-registration, it goes back to that tip jar theory. If there's already money in a tip jar, if you're at a piano bar or at a bar or wherever, and you already see a tip in there, people are more apt to give money. So you can encourage your zero balance folks to maybe make a $5 donation to themselves, a $10 donation to themselves, just to get that thermometer to rise just a little bit. It shows that they are more engaged in the event. And then you can also use these scheduled notifications or trigger notifications for your rewards program. So once people reach a certain fundraising milestone, they get a message, they get an email, congratulations, here is your next step. Also segmenting out your fundraising stratification levels or participant types that are almost at those goals to give them a motivational messaging to keep going, to keep fundraising. Okay, so event communication. So this is very important because this tells your participants the when and the wheres of event day. Where are they going to go to check in? Where are they going to park? What time does the opening ceremonies begin? Where do they pick up their reward shirts? Do you have a team meeting area? Is there a teaser site plan or route plan that you would like to share with them? Any and all things that you think is important. But I want to go back to the point of leading back to your website, because you don't want to inundate people with email messages. You want to give them big call to action buttons. You want to give them concise information that will fall above the fold. And if you want them to get more information, have a big button there that says view event day details. Bring that back to your webpage. And also, I would also share any of this information according, on your social channels as well. So impact communications. So this is where you want to tell your folks why they're raising their money. Why are they doing what they're doing to come to your event and have a memorable, fun experience? So this is another place that you can send out those last minute impact messaging. And also, like I said, call campaigns. You want to keep that going. Call your team captains. Give them that special attention that they deserve. And then, of course, post-event thank yous and surveys. These you can also schedule in DonorDrive. So I would recommend using a survey method, maybe SurveyMonkey or any type of survey that you guys want to send out, and just pre-program that. Work on it before the event. Get your questions in there so you can send that email communication right out. Even if it's right after check-in ends or the last walker or the last rider comes in, you can blast that message out and it's already built for you. Motivation. So why do people want to participate in your event? Where does the money go? What is their reason for participating? You want to keep your participants engaged in your event's mission. That is why they've come to participate in your event. They had heard about it from a friend and they thought, oh, that sounds really neat. I would love to help out, or it's something that they have personally experienced. So set up your site with easy access tools and pre-written impact messages. So if you're sending out an e-coms and you want to talk about the impact, have a graphic there, have something visual that they can look at. And then through that messaging of your e-coms, send it back to your webpage. Have some fundraising tools on there, including guided messages. So they can use really a copy and paste into their own e-coms, have a separate part of that page for Facebook posts, for Twitter posts that are 120 characters or less. Give them all of the tools in their toolbox to use. So when sending out your e-coms, like I said, this can be very simple, copy and paste with your impact messaging. And then when you're making your follow-up calls, make sure you talk to people about their reward levels. And then once again, maybe this is another great area to talk to your zero balance folks. If you raise X amount of dollars, this person will be able to get this treatment, or they'll be able to save this many lives, or put this food on the table, or have shelter for a night. Really using that impact messaging, working with, making a simple graphic. People are very drawn to pictures. They're very drawn to bright, shiny things. So if you want to drive a message home, It is always better to do it, I think, with an infographic, having you go back to your website, and just making sure you're not inundating once again with too much information, because then you'll lose them. And that will be very sad. Okay, so my favorite part is coordinating with technology. So DonorDrive has a lot of wonderful notifications put in place. There are scheduled notifications, as y'all know about. There are trigger notifications. You can send out impact messaging to different segmented groups, like I mentioned, your zero balance, your 1 to 299, your 300, wherever those incentive levels live. And this is where you can really hone in and send those specific messages. So you can schedule these messages through DonorDrive. If you can do it 4 days leading up to the event, 3 days after someone registers, whatever it is. If you have an e-ticket system, so when people come, obviously, to check in that day, if this is something you want to send them beforehand, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can copy and paste a ticket from, the internet on there. It's just something that they have in their hands that makes it feel like they're going someplace. So they remember to take it with them, and or have it electronically to show a check-in. Now, it might not be something that you really need, but if somebody has something physical to hold, they feel like they are more apt to show up because they have a connection to it. And once again, event arrival, check-in information, all of these things should be in your event scheduled notifications that you guys send out. Now, I'm not saying that every message has to be scheduled or triggered. Now, the email campaign system through DonorDrive is really good as well, but if you want to send out to segmented groups, the scheduled and trigger is the place for you. If you want to send to the full community, then the email campaign is a great place to do that as well. Okay, so the next part is we're going to get to the Q&A. I apologize if I went too fast, but I know this is a lot of information to take in and talk about. And the most important thing for you guys to know is that as you're leading up to the event, your website, this is something I didn't put on here. You want, as much as you're doing your e-coms of all these things I said, you're adjusting your communications calendar, you're scheduling your emails, your trigger emails, your call campaigns. If your website is not as up to date as the information you're sending out, you've missed a mark. Your website is forever growing and changing and breathing. So if it's hiding pages just as you get closer to your event, if it's adding more buttons, if it's adding more scrollers, that specific information that you want people to see, and archiving the page you don't need, do that. Adjust your website. Add a countdown clock. If you can't do that, add some banners that say 3 days until the event, 2 days. Coordinate that also with your social ads. It's a saturation effect. It takes people 6 times to really do anything. So if they're seeing it, it'll get embedded to their mind. Oh, it's 3 days before the event. Oh, I saw this e-coms come through. What was that again? Oh, event day details. I went to the webpage. There it is. In their participant dashboard, add those big buttons as well, so they know exactly what they're doing, where they're going. Of course, they will have questions, but you've laid it out there. You've given them all the tools that they need. And y'all will have all the tools you need too, because you've set everything up, you've adjusted your plans, you've pre-written all these messages. So by the time event day comes, all you're doing is putting out small fires, making sure people know where they're going. They have all the messaging they need. They've raised all their money, and you'll have a wonderful event. And that leads us to the Q&A piece.
Great. We've had a few questions come in. Just a reminder to use the question feature in the chat box to submit your questions, but we've had a few come in, Ally. Do you have a sample list of the segments that people should build from when you're talking about segmentation? Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for asking. That's a great question. Now, this is something that we do pre-production as we are gearing up for the new event season. So we take time in that off season to build out our groups. Who are these people that we're going to want to contact? Now, obviously that will change, but it's a basic new participants, alumni participants, zero balance, stratification levels, and then also reward levels. So this is something that I can send I'm planning to send kind of an overall description of things post this webinar. So with these questions that come in, I will make sure that I add that piece in there, because it's really important to have that list out, because you don't want, no need to reinvent the wheel. Let's all share. So that's a great question.
Great. Ally, which tools do you recommend to track event performance? People were wondering about both current and even year-over-year comparison.
So what I do, I'm just going to go back to this spreadsheet here. So like I said, you always want to start with your cumulative. Now, if you haven't been doing this year over year, that's okay. I don't want you to panic. Take time in the off season, doesn't have to be now, for your overall year, but I definitely want you guys to concentrate on your weekly. So go back into your data, use the data from DonorDrive, make your export, make your report of exactly what you need. So if that's dragging over the fiscal year of the event, the name of the event, participant type, first name, last name, email, if it's a specific route event, those pedigree information that you would need to then compare and then go from weeks out, like I said, so this is a 12-week out schedule, find what that day was for 12 weeks out for your previous year, put those dates together, make your spreadsheet. You can use exactly what I have on these fields here, fill that in, use the formula for percentage of increase, which will also give you if it's a decrease. And then that's the best way. Now, DonorDrive does have some quick view event insights, but I would recommend for you guys really getting into your data, seeing where those people are coming from, how many new participants you have, where are you lacking, what else can you do with your e-coms to make sure that you build up your participant base with new people, re-engaging your alumni. So the tools I use is really myself, because I know my participants. I would know where I was last year. Where have we faltered? Did we start our marketing late? What are the pieces that may have contributed to either a decrease or an increase, and how to keep that trajectory going?
Fantastic. We've had a few more questions come in, so we'll grab those too. What are some tips that you have around event check-in? Maybe ways that you use technology to make that a little smoother?
That's a wonderful question, and this is something I really enjoy talking about. So for my event check-in, so years ago, we used paper. So paper check-in sheets, a binder full of paper of people that were coming to your event. Now, where this falters is then you are sitting there counting envelopes, you're counting pieces of paper, manually by hand. If you have a command center that if someone gets hurt, sifting through banker boxes of figuring out who that participant is, what's their emergency contact. So what I've turned to is using a third-party vendor, and there's many vendors out there and many ways to build an online check-in system. So now, pre-event, I upload my entire list to an e-check-in system. So when people come to the event, we have either computers or iPads or even cellular phones where you can directly check people in. Because what this will do is it'll give you your immediate retention, which is super cool to see how many people are actually on your event. If it's a multi-route, you know exactly how many people are on that route. That information has their emergency contact, which hopefully you guys have been asking during your registration process. Cell phone numbers of that participant as well. If you do assign them a bib number or a wristband number, that number is in there also, because that's if someone, knock on wood, gets hurt, somebody will call that in, they'll have that wristband number, it'll go right to your command center, and they know who that person is. So that's what I would recommend for check-in. It alleviates the paper, it saves some trees, it saves time, and it helps very much with efficiency.
Fantastic. We had another question come in around suggestions for event communication copies. So they're looking for maybe some best practices or resources that could help them as they write some of those communication pieces going into the final push.
Yes, absolutely. So over the years, we've really harnessed and grown our comms plan. So that is targeted messaging, like I mentioned before. So where we've kind of gathered these from is really our own historical views of emails, also emails that we may have seen on blogs or from other events that we've signed up for. of really pinpointing what jumped out to me. What was that word that I actually paid attention to? Was it because it had the personalization of the dear insert name, or was it because it had a big call to action button, so I exactly knew what I was supposed to do? So these are things that we do build out. We do build out pre-event. We have, like I said, with our communications calendar, it comes the whole communications package. So we pre-write a lot of things for the e-coms campaigns. We also pre-do those. And then we also, in conjunction to writing, you also need your artwork. You don't want to fill up a page with words. You want to give graphics, like I said. You want to give buttons. You want to give call to action. You want to segment out your communications to really hone into who you are talking to. What message are you trying to get to them? Now, of course, there are e-coms that are going to be, blanket for everybody. But what is your message? Why are you writing this? What do you want to happen in your return for that message?
Fantastic. And then we'll wrap it up with one more question. Do you have some communication planning tools that you recommend?
I do. So pre-event, I keep going back to this, but let's focus on right now. So going into maybe an 8-week plan, I know we're all going into fall. So with our clients, what we do, we're very transparent with what our communication plans are because we want them to obviously know what we're sending out. We will use either a Google Sheet or a Smart Sheet or OneDrive to share with, to some of them are hospitals. So sometimes they can't use Google, so we figure out kind of workarounds with that. But we want to share a communications calendar with them so they know exactly what is going out, when it's going out. Now, not saying that they're always going to reference this or look at it after you tell them about it. So it's always good. What I do on my weekly call, I'll resend everything that is going out that week. But in order to not reinvent the wheel, I already have it in my overall schedule. So it's really just taking out that piece for the week, showing it to my client. This is what's going to go out, being honest with them about where your numbers are, why you're sending out specific messaging. If you're changing messaging or updating it, just giving them that full picture. So it's really using technology, using a cloud-based system so they can see it, they can view it, they can touch it and feel it as well.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Just a reminder to everyone, we will be sending out this deck and the recording of the webinar, so you're welcome to review that, share it with your team. And then if you have any questions, feel free to reach out directly to Ally Brooks. Her email address is right here, abrooks@eventage.net. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll talk with you guys again soon.
Thank you, everyone.